Good evening and welcome to Norwalk's Immigration Community Forum. We're thrilled to have you join us tonight, both in person and virtually. My name is Sarah Rendon Garcia, and I'm a proud Norwalk resident since childhood and also a proud immigrant. I'm an assistant professor at UConn in Human Development and Family Sciences, and you may see me wearing various hats in the community, including being a Norwalk Acts board member and a Norwalk Public Schools parent. It's an honor to be asked to moderate tonight's panel and Q&A. I'm going to first start by welcoming a few of our community partners who we are so grateful to. Building One Community, Stanford Norwalk United with Immigrants, Person to Person, Norwalk Health, Community Resource Hub, Mutual Aid, and Waterford. Thank you to all of your staff and volunteers for tabling and handing out vital resources. All of you have served a really important purpose in the last few weeks, especially and months. And you've been serving vital resources in supporting immigrant families in Norwalk and across the region. Okay, before we get started, I'm going to go over some housekeeping and logistics, and then we'll go with some short introductions with our panelists. We'll then use our remaining time to dive right into questions and answers. So for those of you tuning in via Zoom, we offer translation services in the language of your choice. You can access these services by selecting the appropriate language in your Zoom settings. And you're also welcome to submit your questions in the Zoom chat. During the Q&A portion, we're going to start with questions from those here in the concert hall, and then we're going to be sure to address the questions on Zoom after. We also have in-person Spanish and Haitian Creole interpretation services available in that corner of the concert hall. So if you need a headset, please visit that corner and you can get one. All right, that's it for housekeeping. So tonight we're joined by distinguished leaders at the local and state level, along with an immigration attorney to address the challenges the Norwalk community, state of Connecticut, and nation are facing when it comes to new immigration enforcement policies at the federal level. One of the goals of tonight's forum is to make sure the community gets their questions answered, to connect our community with local resources, and for our leaders to share some critical information during these uncertain times. Before we begin the Q&A session, I'd like to ask each panelist to briefly introduce themselves. So first, I'm pleased to welcome the Mayor of Norwalk, Harry Rilling. Mayor Rilling, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everybody for being here. We felt this was an important forum because there are so many unanswered questions, and we wanted to make sure that people had all the information that they have in order to protect themselves, protect their families, understand what rights you have. And we wanted to let people know that your city government, your state government is here for you. Just take a second. If I could have the members of the Norwalk Common Council, just raise your hand and stand up for a second to thank you all for being here. We are very aware that this is a very dangerous and very difficult and scary time. The Supreme Court and the federal government are broken. What is happening in this country is just something I never, ever thought I would see. And we want, again, to let people know where the city of Norwalk is in this entire process and it is what's happening in the city of Norwalk. And that's why we have assembled this panel, and we're going to welcome any questions that you may have. I'm sure that there are many people tuning in on Zoom because unfortunately, and we see it, people are afraid to come out onto the street. And we understand why. But we want to do everything we can to allay any concerns you may have and work together to make sure that we keep Norwalk and our residents as safe as we possibly can. Thank you.
Next, we hear from State Senator Bob Duff to share his thoughts.
Well, thank you and good evening, everybody, and good evening to the folks who are watching us electronically. It was a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the invitation tonight to talk about a really important issue. But first, I just wanted to thank the mayor and his team for putting this together. This is the second time I believe this conversation has taken place, once now and right before right after the election last year, on a topic that we know was going to be important, and one that was going to be one that would impact many people. I also want to take a moment to thank our Chief of Police, Chief Walsh, because a few weeks ago, as we know, ICE was here in the city of Norwalk, and it was the chief who went out to the public parking lot and instructed those agents to leave the public parking lot next to the police station. And I'm not sure if everybody appreciates or understands how important that was, but I also believe that that was a real courageous stand as well for him to take, and it's something that I know I appreciate, and I know many other Norwalkers appreciate as well. So thank you. And lastly, I just want to thank all of our community partners, because as the mayor said, there's a lot of fear out there right now. There's a lot of sense of anxiety, unknown feelings or situations, and having community partners like Building One Community, person to person. I'm sorry if I'm not naming everybody. But basically, I want to thank them as well, because they are helping the most vulnerable in our communities, not asking questions, just helping. And that's who we are as a community. Lastly, I just wanted to mention that here in the state of Connecticut, in the legislature, we have worked to protect our immigrant community and support our immigrant community. We know that immigrants in Connecticut have strengthened our state. They have done a lot for us, and that we need to make sure that we are protecting them to the best extent possible in these very dangerous and turbulent times. So we will continue to do what we can in Connecticut, and working in partnership with our local governments and our law enforcement. And I appreciate the work done by my colleagues in the legislature, and also by our local and state law enforcement. Thank you.
Just a quick note to our panelists, our Zoom audience can hear me fine, but they've asked for you to basically almost put the mic in your mouth so that they can hear you. All right, so next we are joined by immigration attorney Jane Renaud. Welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm not going to do what you just suggested, but I'll try to speak as close to the mic as possible. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm an immigration attorney. I've worked in the field for many years, and I'm currently with a staff attorney at Building One Community in Stamford. I'm part of a team of immigration professionals. There are about 10 of us, and we work to find legal pathways for our community members. And I think the group provides excellent representation at a very affordable cost. And I would agree with the mayor. We are in unprecedented times. I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm absolutely shocked at what's going on. But there is hope, and there are a lot of pathways for our immigrant community. And we're very happy and pleased, and work very hard to find those. Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, we're joined by Chief James Walsh, the Chief of Police for Norwalk. Chief Walsh, welcome.
Well, good evening and thank you. I want to thank Mayor Rilling for gathering us here tonight and his team to discuss this have this very important conversation. Want to stress a few things. Norwalk Police Department's continued commitment and compliance to the State of Connecticut Trust Act, and to reassure all residents that the Norwalk Police Department is open and welcome for everybody, for if you're a victim of a crime, if you need any form of police assistance. And I'm glad we have this opportunity to have this discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our panelists for your opening remarks. And now we'd like to open the floor to questions. We ask that everyone be respectful as we engage in this important conversation. And please keep in mind that not all questions may be answered tonight, as some things are still evolving. We also ask that no one records people when they are asking questions, unless that person has asked to be recorded. If you have a question, please come up to the microphone at the front of the stage, and we'll also have little cards available where you can write your question if you would rather not come to the mic. And we kindly ask that you keep your questions brief to allow for as many questions as possible. Our panelists here are here to provide accurate information, so please take full advantage of their expertise. And again, for those joining on Zoom, please submit your questions through the chat feature, and we'll get to those after addressing questions from our in-person audience. Yvonne right here, she has the cards, so you can raise your hand if you would like one.
The Chief Norwalk Police Department willing to protect immigrants. And this is sort of a double question. Can Bob Duff advocate for the Trust Act to be expanded to actively protect immigrants rather than making police bystanders?
Yeah, the Norwalk Police Department is committed to compliance with the State of Connecticut Trust Act, which was originally created in 2013. As in all residents of the city of Norwalk, we remain committed to protecting them in any situation to assure that they are treated fairly. And as a police chief, we have to assure that all laws are regulated and properly adhered to in the city of Norwalk.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And we actually had another version of the Trust Act that was introduced prior to being passed this legislative session. As the chief said, this is our third amendment to the Trust Act this year. The original bill was a stronger bill, and through the legislative process, it got shaved. But we're looking at it right now as to see if we can go back, if we have a special session this fall, whether or not we can make it stronger. We have to have an agreement and get the votes with the Senate, the House, and also get the signature of the governor on it. So it's a three-legged stool, obviously, but there's a number of us in the Senate Democratic Caucus who do want to make it a stronger Trust Act.
Have there been any discussions between leadership about other ways that we can be degrading the ability of ICE to effectuate their illegal arrests like we saw with Abrego? I was really happy to see.
Yep, closer to the mic. Yeah.
Right. So reiterating the question, I was wondering, have there been any discussions in the leadership team about ways to further degrade how ICE is illegally operating when we hear stories like Abrego and other things like that? I was very happy to see that they're no longer allowed to use the parking lot. Are there other ideas like that or discussions that you guys have had about other tactics or things like that that you can use, not to obstruct, but to limit their ability to use our resources to effectuate what they're doing?
Thank you.
Well, my number one responsibility is to ensure that all Norwalk police officers maintain the law and the letter of the law. And that's what we do in regards to the Trust Act. So as other legislation is proposed, the Norwalk Police Department will comply with such. In regards to what occurred last month, it was an unsuitable situation that was ongoing in the side parking lot, which is it's a 24/7 building where people are always coming in and out, victims of crime and other services. So what was going on was unsuitable for that usage.
And we just wanted to make sure, and again, echoing Senator Duff, I commend the police chief for going out twice and asking them to leave the parking lot, because we don't want to send the message that the police department is working in partnership with ICE, because they're not. And unfortunately, I've had a conversation with the U.S. Attorney for the state of Connecticut. I've spoken to the Attorney General for the state of Connecticut. And unfortunately, ICE can pretty much operate independently. There, there's nobody watching the hen house as far as I'm concerned, because nobody's willing to do anything to rein them in. In fact, what they're doing is they're taking FBI agents, they're taking DEA agents, they're taking ATF agents, and they're reassigning them to ICE functions. Unfortunately, as you see, ICE is using every tactic that they can. They're going into courthouses. They're looking at waiting for people to come out of a courthouse. We do want to make sure that people understand that we do have a very strict policy in place when it comes to our Norwalk Public Schools. And there's a protocol that is available that it would be followed in the event, and I don't think it will happen, but at this point in time, nothing surprises me. There's a protocol in place that will be exercised or implemented if an ICE agent goes onto school property. So.
Can I answer that as well? A little indirectly, but Norwalk actually took the lead on this before the state did, but we passed legislation very early on about schools that there needs to be a designated person in each school in case an agent knocks on the door before they're allowed to come in, and policy set up. Also, I'd just like to mention that the 21 out of 25 of the Senate Democratic Caucus sent a letter to the Chief Justice regarding masking and behavior inside the courthouse and outside the courthouse. We're expecting, and I have this letter right here, happy to share with folks, but we're expecting some decisions and answers on that maybe as soon as tomorrow.
If I could just follow up on that masking part too. Let's say we were able to get that passed and all that sort of stuff. Would Norwalk Police be willing to enforce it in case ICE was not actually following the law?
Local law enforcement and state law enforcement has no jurisdiction over federal law enforcement. So I don't understand why you say enforce that.
Well, like if the law was passed, let's say through the legislature, like you were talking about the laws earlier, that said ICE agents cannot use masks in the state of Connecticut. That's what I'm sort of.
I think the law that Senator Duff just discussed had to do with judicial marshals inside judicial courtrooms and courthouses. So that would be a policy of the judicial marshals in all state court buildings. So that's where the police do not have jurisdiction.
But in a theoretical, like let's say we did get a law passed for the state that they could not use masks within the state. Would that be something that the police would be willing to enforce? If
We lack jurisdiction in that enforcement, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, Senator Duff just answered my first question, which was what's the status of that letter? Thank you so much for your involvement in bringing that to the court's attention. It's extremely important. I'm a lawyer. I am absolutely outraged by the fact that ICE agents can go into a court without a judicial warrant and start arresting people and breaking down doors, et cetera. So that never should happen. And I assume you also support strengthening the Trust Act so that it prohibits that kind of activity.
Yeah, I also just say that, talk a little closer for the online folks. Yes, so you should be hearing something about the letter, hopefully tomorrow, at least on a couple of the points. But I would also say that when they did go into the courthouse recently, the judicial marshals told them they could not enter and the agents still entered anyway. So that's the issue, is that not everybody plays by the rules, some don't, and then you're at a standoff at that point. But it's still important for us to set boundaries and to set our rules. And just like in federal courthouses in Connecticut, there are very strict rules. Now it's a little different for federal courthouses and state courthouses, but I still think it's important for us and for the judicial branch to be able to say exactly where we stand and what our policies are on these issues.
Thank you. Can I just ask one more question?
Can
Because
you-
that really wasn't a question.
Do you mind if you get the
Okay,
Becca
that's
lines
fine.
just so we can take turns? Thank you. Go ahead.
So, thank you. Thank you for being here. My name is Catalina Horak, and I've worked in the immigration ecosystem for close to 20 years in the state of Connecticut. So, Senator Duff, when we passed the driver's license for undocumented several years ago, and many of us had multiple conversations about the importance of having that firewall between the DMV and Homeland Security and ICE. Right now, one of the things that we asked for in the amendment of the Trust Act was the data security and making sure that part did not pass. It's incredibly important to us that you all have this conversation about data security, because right now, people are having traffic violations. They don't know if they should go to the DMV. They don't know if they're going to put their names, at risk. So I want to see what are the conversations that are taking place right now in Hartford about data security and that firewall. Again, it's not just the DMV is one example, but it's also happening with Husky, with a number of state agencies. And I think that that's one of the most important things, because some of the things that have been said, we understand that, like Chief said, there's nothing that you can do about ICE agents having a mask on the street, but there are things that we can do, in Hartford when it
Yes.
comes to data security.
Yes, I agree. And I fully agree with you on the data security, 100%. And I think that there's unanimity amongst Democratic legislative leaders in the House and the Senate on data security.
Okay.
And
And are we willing to put pressure on the governor
well, I
to
hope
show him that that's a really, really important thing?
I can. Will everybody else? Because it's more than just me. This is what we have in our democracy is require people to say and speak up. And we need folks to speak up, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for being here. Ricardo Rocha, immigrant from Venezuela, proudly. I'm with the Mid Fairfield Community Care Center. It's an honor to serve the community. I have a broad question, and it's for all of the panelists. Just taking a step back, I wonder if you could give us sort of a temperature check on the situation as you see it from your chair, from your field. If you can offer a statistic or a number, just kind of updating how you see the situation in Norwalk or the state or region, from your position. Again, with some kind of number that'd be helpful just to see how you see the situation as it is. And maybe this is for the end, Ms. Redon Garcia, if you can make sure you pin this one. From your position, what is one thing that you would like to see done to further, address the situation before us? So temperature check currently, and if you can propose or say what you would like to see happen to ultimately better support our immigrant brothers and sisters. Thank you.
I'm wondering if, Jane, if you want to take this one.
Sure. Well, I can start with it. So in terms of a temperature check, I can just say from my perspective, every day there's a change in the law. So for example, temporary protected status has been terminated. It's going to be terminated for a number of countries, and specifically Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti. There are lawsuits, and then there are efforts by the government to challenge those. So every single day we are so challenged in terms of how to pivot our strategies with particular cases. So it's complicated. It changes every day from my chair. I don't really have any statistics for you in terms of numbers, but the temperature is really hot for us. It's just really, really difficult. Aside from in terms of what I'd love to see, that's just not going to happen probably in the next 3.5 years. But I think the one thing that the community can do is to to try to take control when you can. And the control happens on the front end before there's a detention. And there are a lot of legal pathways for folks. So I would encourage anyone who's undocumented or whose status is about to expire to seek immigration advice from a legal professional, and be very wary of people who are not licensed to practice law. There's a lot of people out there who will take your money, and not to, toot our own horn, but at Building One Community, we offer very affordable consultations. So come see us. We'll tell you if you have a case or if you don't. And if you don't, don't go spending a lot of money, your hard-earned wages, because it's tough. So not a great answer to those questions, but that's what I'm seeing.
Thank you. I would say the temperature is still kind of high in the city of Norwalk, based on a lot of fears and suspicions and just a lot of communications and intelligence that the police department does receive. There's a lot of suspicion of just normal police officers doing their day-to-day job. Uniformed police officers, detectives, and you have to understand Norwalk Police Department is still responding to over 75,000 calls for service every single day, detectives in plain clothes and stuff. So there's a lot of activity of the Norwalk Police Department being scrutinized, and some of that feedback has come back to me in regards to any future enforcement. We did not know about August, and we were unaware of any future enforcement in the city of Norwalk, but I would just say that discussions like this would hopefully temper and gain more confidence in local law enforcement.
I've also said that a mayor's greatest responsibility is to keep his or her citizens safe and to keep the community a safe place. This is making my job that much harder because people, as we've all acknowledged, are frightened. When the Supreme Court just recently stated that it's okay for an ICE agent to stop somebody based on appearance and race. That's gone back. They've done away with stop and frisk years ago, but now they're coming back and bringing that a form of that back. That's taking the rights away from people who are in our community. When I spoke to the U.S. Attorney, I asked him to please reach out to ICE in the state of Connecticut and ask them to not wear masks. Unfortunately, they're still wearing masks. This way they can't be identified when they do something wrong. I've asked him to please make sure that ICE agents are in marked vehicles so that people know. I mean, if somebody's driving down the street and a white van pulls up behind them and tries to pull them over, they have no idea if that's a legal law enforcement action or not. So this is right now in not only in Norwalk, but all over. People are afraid. They're afraid to come out of their house. One thing I'm very proud of, I've spoken to the superintendent of schools and she said, attendance is not down, which gives me a good feeling. So, but again, this is a very, very challenging, difficult time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And not much more to add, except for the fact of just being sad for the moment in time that we're in right now. And that it's just a stressful time for so many of us who are leaders, stressful time for our local law enforcement. It's a stressful time for our citizens because nobody knows if they're going to wake up in the morning, what the New York Times breaking news alert is going to say. And I just hope we can get out of this moment that we're in because it's a very ugly time right now.
Thanks, everyone. Ma'am?
Thank you. I'm always technically challenged because I'm short, so I hope you can hear me. First, I want to thank you for coming and having this forum. I think Woody Allen said 90% of life is showing up, and you showed up. You know, words matter, but so do actions. And many of us are here for the people who are not here tonight. And the mayor alluded to the people are afraid to come, our undocumented and immigrant friends. So many of us are here on their behalf. I was intrigued by something you said, Attorney Renaud. There is hope. Could you share 2 to 3 things that give you hope, that would give the immigrant community hope? And 2 to 3 things that would give those of us here who are their allies hope?
Okay. I think that we all have to recognize that as human beings, we have a lot of power, and information is power. And when we have that, we can take a situation where we feel like we have no control and try to exercise some control over it. So, that's what I would suggest to the undocumented community. Educate yourself. Find out there are so many different options available that a lot of people don't understand. And so when it's important to get the information, get it from an reliable source, and equip yourself with that knowledge. And I'm not sure if I'm really directly answering your question because it's very difficult, but I would just say, get the information, try to gain control in a situation where you feel like you have no control. Am I not answering your question? I am. Okay. And then the other thing I would suggest is to plan for the possibility of a situation where you've lost control. And by that, I mean detention. So there are steps to take in advance of that. And I would suggest that all undocumented individuals do that, safeguard their family, their assets.
Thank you. I wondered if our elected officials and the chief might comment on that. Are there 1 or 2 things that you would say would give the immigrant community hope?
Okay. So what will give me hope? And I like talking about hope. I much prefer to be positive than negative. What I think gives me hope right now is that you all are here. What gives me hope is that people are online. That gives me hope is that there are people who care deeply about this issue, that there are people who care deeply enough that they don't need to go to the courthouses, but they go to the courthouses. There are people who care deeply enough about this issue that they are giving their time and their money to nonprofits that help people who are in dire straits right now or who are scared. What gives me hope is that there are protests across this country that say what's happening right now is not right and it's not what this country stands for and it's not our values. That gives me hope, because if everybody was sitting home right now and nobody cared, and that we were just watching people get taken away and nobody said a word about it, and that there weren't protests out there, that would be bad. But the fact is that people are actually, they're energized in a sense that that it may not be happening to them, but they see that it's happening to somebody else that may not even look like them, that they feel enough to speak up and speak out. And I talk about that all the time. Courage begets courage. We need more people to speak up and speak out. When there are protests, we need you to not bring 1 or 2 people. We need you to bring 10 or 20 people. That's how we save this country. And it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about the rule of law. It's about the freedoms that are guaranteed in our Constitution. It's about our Supreme Court precedents. It's about how we treat each other as humans. It's about what I know when I go to church, what Jesus Christ taught, not about what what somebody says he taught that teaches some sort of hatred towards one another. That's not what he was about. So keep speaking up, keep speaking out, give yourself courage, give somebody else courage, and that's how we save the day.
I want to echo what the senator said. I think there's I think you're seeing a groundswell. I think the tide is shifting. I hope it is, because people are getting upset. I've seen so many people who were supportive of these kinds of things now looking the other way, turning the other way and saying, no, absolutely, this is wrong. A couple of years ago, my wife was here and we came across a book called The Soul of America by John Beecham. If you haven't read it, read it. The whole idea behind it was this country has been through so many trials and tribulations, but we always seem to come out on the other side because we are a country of good people, of law-abiding citizens. We are the greatest country in the world, and we do survive. And I'm hoping beyond any thought that the groundswell you're seeing now, as the senator said, people coming out and making their voices heard, saying this is not right. Eventually, that message has to get to the Congress, to the Supreme Court, to the executive branch of the government. It has to get there in order for this to change, and it will. I'm the eternal optimist, by the way, the eternal optimist. I think I think things are going to get better.
Yes, I know hope is an individual perspective, so it's kind of difficult to gauge. But I would hope that people would see the actions not only of the city last year holding a forum as we did tonight's forum, but the actions since August 14th and the communication, not only from city leadership, but to the police department, that we definitely have an open door policy to answer any questions in regards to what's going on currently, not only in America, but in Norwalk. I've answered several emails, several inquiries, and we have to open up and continue these lines of communication to make sure that everybody feels safe, especially in the city of Norwalk, and that the police department is committed with their outreach and all our services to whatever we can provide.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I am thrilled that the city of Norwalk is hosting this forum, and I hope that surrounding communities do the same thing. My question is unfortunately not on the positive spectrum, but thank you, Marie, for a positive question. I'm an attorney. I'm trained to look at things from what's the worst case scenario. So I think of things like this. What if ICE comes to my door, right? What if they come to my door for whatever reason? I'm an attorney who helps immigrants sometimes, and they've no judicial warrant, and I'm not inviting them in. What if they go to a place of business? And I know that in places of business, you can have a private space, and supposedly that's a private space. You close the door, that they're not supposed to break down the door and come in. What if, they're somebody who maybe is working for me is harassed and physically assaulted? I mean, I'm assuming that that I can call the police, because it's no different, even though they're ICE agents, that they still can't hopefully use unnecessary force. They can't break down doors without a warrant. I mean, is that all true?
It all depends. There's a whole set of circumstances on when officers can use force, federal law enforcement officers can use force, and when they can enter a private residence, a third-party residence, a public building. So it is all in case law. So every single incident would have to be looked at.
Well, the police are at my door. I don't have time to go check my law books. So what I'm asking is, not the police, the ICE police are at my door. What I'm asking is, can I rely on the Norwalk Police Department to come as they would for any other intruder who's not welcome?
If you call the police department, we will respond. Our level of action will be dictated by what is going on, what federal authority they have to be doing what they're doing. So we will definitely respond and investigate the circumstances and facts and what is occurring. But there are different layers of our response based on the situation and the circumstances and fact of who they are and what their jurisdiction is, which is laid out in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Thank you. I know all of these folks have been standing, so I'm going to let them go and then I'll come to you.
Good evening. I I have a question about, and you touched on this, that I teach. I'm a Norwalk resident, Norwalk parent, Norwalk teacher. I'm glad my students are showing up for school, and by and large, they are. But I hear more and more that they are concerned about going to almost any other public spaces, including libraries, including receiving health care, and the things that they and their families need to do to be healthy, productive, and grow. And so at the same time, I feel torn because I want to encourage them to do all of those things. And I'm also terrified for them. And so I'm wondering specifically here in Norwalk, if there are plans to increase patrols, protections for our families, our children, their parents who are trying to go about living healthy, productive lives, so that they can feel better being out in our community.
I can let the chief answer that, but last year, I authorized overtime every day for police officers to specifically focus on our schools. And the chief can tell you pretty much how much money he's spending on that. But chief, if you want to.
Yeah, besides our school resource officers,
Mhm.
we have officers assigned geographically every single day for school security. I won't tell you how many or where they are, but there is a large force of officers dedicated strictly to school security. In regards to public spaces, we patrol as normal. And in regards to patrolling and safeguarding, in regards to enforcement action, like I advised this individual, that it all depends on the circumstances of the arrest. Federal law enforcement has powers that we cannot interfere with. We are a local municipality with local state powers, which is governed by Connecticut General Statute. And then there's the state police, which is also governed by Connecticut General Statutes. And then there's federal law enforcement, which goes across state lines and is governed by policies set by the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington. So in regards to intervention, we have no power to intervene.
Okay, I guess that's kind of a follow-up to that would be, and I do notice and I do appreciate all of the patrols and protections our children have. Is there any sense that having additional city police outside of other places that, again, libraries, community centers, hospitals, health centers, is that, I don't know, is that thought of as discouraging? Is an ICE agent less likely to be waiting outside one of those places if there is local enforcement there?
Not based on my knowledge of
Okay,
37 years of doing law enforcement.
thank you.
Thanks.
So I'm taking your advice to speak up and speak out. It's not true that the majority of people being taken by ICE are convicted criminals. Kidnappings are occurring by plainclothed, armed people in unmarked cars that have blackened windshields and windows so dark that they are illegal in Connecticut, some of whose license plate covers are opaque and obviously illegal. Unqualified ICE assistants are probably being illegally paid under the table with the $75 billion provided by HR 1. What can the city government do to help in stopping ICE's lawlessness and the spread of disinformation and stop the cruelty besieged upon us by our own federal government so that trust can be built back into our community?
The role of local law enforcement, and my best advice would be to document anything and report it. Documentation and communication of any wrongdoing and usually gives an air of examination to see what we could do about it. In regards to local law enforcement, like I've expressed, we are very limited in our powers to interfere or intervene with federal law enforcement. So and besides our compliance with the Trust Act, which, governs the release of information and our cooperation with them. That's where we're at with that.
So if I drove a car with a blackened windshield where I couldn't even see the steering wheel, and if my car had a plate cover, license plate cover that was so dark that no one could see the number on the plate, would a Norwalk police be able to arrest me?
Yes, as a civilian, but there are certain Connecticut general statutes which govern law enforcement in violation of certain motor vehicle laws, as long as they are in the furtherance of criminal law enforcement.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So there is provisions allowing law enforcement to use certain things on their vehicles that are not available to civilian motor vehicles.
So if an ICE car, because we see them, if an ICE car has these features, and let's say they are one of these people that are paid under the table, they're not a government employee, which this is happening. I mean, we all know it's happening. And so, shouldn't the Norwalk police, be able to question them? Like, why do you have these?
Every individual that we've encountered from federal law enforcement has been a sworn federal law enforcement agency. So we've received no information that there are non-sworn law enforcement agencies doing these enforcement.
So if we call you, if we see one of these cars, can you come out and verify that they're?
We'll investigate any car. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I appreciate that because it's happening.
Okay.
I think it's also worth mentioning now. I was going to mention it later on, but I think since you're bringing this up, social media can be good or it can be bad. What I fear is when people start putting stuff on social media that just scares everybody, because sometimes you hear a rumor and you put that on social media. You can call the police department, you can call my office, you can call and tell us what you think is happening, and we'll look into it and try to verify or make sure that it's not just something that people are, how rumors start. And somebody hears something and then they'll talk about it and they'll talk about it. And before you know, it's all over social media that there's 20 ICE agents over here and they're taking people out of their schools. Please don't get caught up with throwing things out on social media unless we have some verification that this is actually the case.
To be sure, I'm not even on social media.
I'm not
I mean, I'm seeing this in person.
This is a message to people to say, look, don't get caught up in social media things, putting rumors out there that you heard may be true. I'm not saying you. I'm saying this is a message to everybody. We've seen it. I've had people, my wife is Ecuadorian and she's very active in the Hispanic community. They call her and say, oh, I heard this, I heard that, I heard this. She'll ask me. We'll verify that this is not happening. So it's just not responsible to put things out there without having some sort of verification that this is actually the case. Like I said, I'm not saying you. I'm saying this is a message to everyone.
Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up with my first question with a more specific one. In the situation where ICE does not have a warrant, can people call the police and be protected by them? Because in the case of the Chavez family, there was no warrant and they were deported.
If a federal law enforcement officer, they're under no duty to surrender a warrant at the time of arrest or show a warrant at the time of arrest.
ICE is required to show a judicial warrant.
Okay, not at the time of arrest, not as the arrest is active, because then it would interfere with the process. That's settled law of the land. That's settled law of the land. So as the arrest is ongoing and being active, okay, you guys had to stop the arrest and show the warrant. That is not true. That is new because thus it's interfering with the arrest process. In the execution of a search warrant in someone's home, if you are executing a search warrant, you have to leave a copy there. But at the time of execution, as things are moving, you are not obligated to stop and show the warrant. So that is a messaging that is incorrect.
Well, then what are people supposed to do? Because all the information that's being spread is that you need to ask for a judicial warrant, and if they don't have one, they cannot take you. So who's protecting them if you are not?
Well, I think they should consult migration attorneys, immigration attorneys, and see what their rights are in regards to criminal procedure. Criminal procedure law is vast, and there's a lot of case precedents going back 40, 50 years that more or less don't interfere with the time of arrest. So if there's 4 agents and there's someone resisting arrest or running or walking away, a law enforcement officer, state, local, or federal, is not obliged to stop the arrest process to show you a warrant.
Well, I think that should be part of the Trust Act.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
understand, but then it becomes public safety, ma'am.
Jane, did you want to add to that?
I was just going to add to the police chief's comment about the judicial warrant is for for an ICE agent to enter either in a place of employment or a residence. I really don't know anything about the process for an actual arrest. So I can't really speak to that, but ICE agents are supposed to have a judicial warrant to enter a place of employment or a residence. Whether that's going to stop them from trying to enter anyway, that's another matter.
Thank you. Yvonne?
Yes, Sarah, this is a question from the audience and it is in Spanish, so I'll read it in Spanish and then in English, and it's for the attorney. The question is, ¿dónde puedo conseguir una lista de abogados en Norwalk, de organización o privados que sean accesibles para la comunidad de bajos recursos? Where can I find a list of lawyers in Norwalk, either from an organization or private, that are accessible for the community of low resources?
I can definitely speak to that. You can find it on Building One Community's website. We've got a lot of community information there, including a list of attorneys. Whether there may be some in Norwalk, but they're definitely in the Norwalk area. So I would go to that, to our website, b1c.org. I believe it's under resources and then community resources or vice versa, but it's pretty easy to navigate. And there may be actually the list is definitely in something that's called an orange folder. It may be in another location, but you'll see it in the orange folder. And these are attorneys that we've all reviewed. Our department has reviewed. They're good. They're reliable. So that's what I would suggest.
Voy a traducir la respuesta. La abogada Jane decía de que puede conseguir una lista de abogados en Building One Community. Ahí ya tiene la traducción ahí. Ok, fantástico.
Hi, thank you all for being here tonight. Going back to the directive that Chief Walsh gave, would the police be willing to hold community trainings on how to safely and legally document ICE encounters?
I would say that it's pretty evident in today's society on how to record any incident that is occurring in American society is to use a cell phone to record it. I would be against giving advice to citizens on how to do this because we don't know where it will go or what intervention, because I'm not going to give advice to citizens on how to intervene in regards to that. But I think we all pretty evident in 2025, based on what occurs in society on social media and what we see in the news, that everybody's pretty apt on recording what occurs in public view.
Okay. You know, no one's looking to intervene. But where can we go to get that training? We want to do this safely. We want to do it legally.
I would say organizations like Building One Community, other organizations that support immigration attorneys and such like that, just using common sense when you do intervene or you see something in public. The number one rule is for your own public safety and everybody's public safety. and everybody's staying back and make sure that the scene is safe for you and everybody else, and record what you need to record.
Would you be willing to work with the groups like B1C?
We work with Building One Community. There's a conversation ongoing. So yes.
Thank you.
Just a quick thing, it can also be, you can also get that training with ACLU, which is ACLU, and they have that training available as well.
Thank you. Okay, we have some questions from the Zoom audience that I'm gonna ask. Yvonne, do you have more questions as well? Okay, great. All right, this is for Attorney Jane Renaud. Can you explain the services and guidance for parents that are that are concerned about being deported and leaving their American citizen children in legal limbo?
Yes. So what we recommend, we don't really do this in our legal department, but what we do recommend that parents make sure they have procedures in place in case they are apprehended. So, and one of those steps that they can take is to have a standby guardian appointed. Building One Community through our family services group facilitates that, helps people do that. So it doesn't take, they're not giving up their parent, they're not giving up custody, they're not giving up parenting rights, but it's just, it actually, I believe it lasts for a year or at the most, either until the until the parent is released or 1 year. So so we can definitely help you do that. I would also suggest getting educational records, health records together for the child. As if you're going on a trip, think about ways to safeguard your child when you're away. Yeah.
Yvonne, did you want to add to that or anything?
Yes, so what Jane is referring to is the Family Preparedness Plan. This plan is also published in the governor's website, so anybody can download that. It was updated this year through a collaboration that happened at the state level, so families can get authorization for somebody to take care of your children if something happens, and also how to take somebody that can take care of your personal property, because if you get detained, then you may leave your car, your house behind, and so on. So, but if you contact us, people can make an appointment and get help to get that family preparedness plan ready. There is another initiative to help people prepare their documents that they can put in a safe place. You can also ask B1C about how to do that it's called the Red Folder Initiative. So we got a lot of information, and if you visit our table at the exit, you'll be able to get flyers on that as well.
Great. So Building One Community, which is in Stanford, can help with family preparedness plan and the notarization that has to go with that to make it official. And then also the red folder, which will prepare you, as Jane was mentioning, in case of detention, but also in case you're separated from your children.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I have a question from the audience. This question is very specific about a certain group of people, so I'm not going to ask it that way. I'm going to modify it. But it's about who is getting deported, what kind of people are getting deported. So I think Attorney Jane can answer that. Regarding nationality, there is not information of what kind of nationals are getting deported. So we don't know, how many people are from certain country that are getting deported. But if you want to expand a little more about who is getting deported.
Who is getting deported? Well, anyone who's in undocumented status could possibly be deported. So I would say those who have encountered immigration, that have a notice to appear at immigration court, are more likely to get deported if they don't have a claim, such as asylum, to stay here. I would say that those who have an outstanding removal order entered against them are certainly subject. So if they're picked up again, They may be deported right away, expeditiously. Individuals who have aggravated felonies, who have committed aggravated felonies, have been convicted, they're certainly subject to expedited removal. So I would say those are sort of the top ones off the top of my head.
Yes, and can you add who can get a bond? Since
Oh,
we
getting
have-
bond.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting more and more difficult to get bond. And bond is, I don't, for those of, it's, just like any criminal matter, if you're detained and you can post a certain amount of money, showing that you'll show up for future hearings, then that's a possibility. Once individuals are detained, it's getting more and more difficult to get bond granted. Even if bond is granted, the government is likely to appeal. And while the appeal is pending, the individual will continue to be detained. So it's a pretty grim situation insofar as bond is concerned in the immigration courts anyway.
Go ahead.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm here representing a variety of friends and family and loved ones who are at varying statuses, but they're all equally scared. I think a lot of the information given today, and I definitely heard and received, applied more to those who are at undocumented status, but even friends and family members of mine who have their green cards or are citizens but don't speak English are scared to engage in the community. Is there anything really specifically both those things, someone who is legally here and has a green card, or someone who is a citizen but doesn't speak English and presents a certain way and is scared to be out and about with what's going on? Anything additional that they can have on their person or should have verbally prepared or something in the case that they are in a situation? Is there anything you can give on that?
Shall I? Okay. I would say for the citizens, carry evidence of your citizenship. It's a really sad thing that a US citizen can be targeted by their appearance, their place of employment. The mayor discussed this, the Supreme Court decision recently. So I would say carry your green card, carry your evidence of citizenship. I wouldn't necessarily, maybe a picture of it on your phone. And for undocumented folks, do not carry your passport. Do not carry any evidence of citizenship. Because if they encounter an ICE agent, that passport will be taken. And I would also suggest that if they are undocumented folks are apprehended by an ICE agent, not to say where they're from. Don't lie, but don't give them the information that they're asking. I understand that that's really easy for me to say right now because I'm not in that situation. But if someone stops me, I'm going to panic. I'm going to be my adrenaline's going to be, pumping pretty high. So I understand that's, it's difficult when you're in the moment, but that would be my advice.
No, I think it's good information. And so just to make sure I understand, if someone's a citizen, you're saying keeping like your passport or documents on you is good. But if I'm a green card holder, I shouldn't keep that on me. I should keep that home, but keep a picture so that it doesn't get taken.
To be honest, I think most people that have a green card probably carry it in their wallet like a driver's license. I believe there is a requirement that you carry your green card with you.
Okay.
In years past, there wasn't a requirement, but I believe that is a requirement under immigration law.
Okay.
In terms of citizenship, I can't imagine a US citizen carrying their passport around. Like I'd be afraid to lose it, but I think a picture helps.
Okay.
So if they're concerned about carrying those documents, I would definitely have a picture on their phone.
Okay. And I just have one other quick question. As someone who feels safe interacting in my community with how I present outwardly, and other people like me who care deeply about what's happening. Sorry, I'm emotional. What can we do in those moments when we see things happening? How can I engage and how can I help?
Well, I'll just start and then you can all chime in. I would just, back to the question about hope. I didn't really answer it very well. Because I'm worried, but I love the hope that was expressed by the other panelists. So how you can help is to volunteer, being here today, being an advocate to your friends and family, your loved ones. I think that's amazing. Support them, volunteer
I think I'm more so mean like in the moment.
in the moment. Yeah.
How can I safely engage and feel like I'm protecting? So if ICE is engaging with somebody, how can I insert myself in a safe way, like legally? I obviously recording, or how can I get in the way appropriately?
I would love to hear the other panelists' views, but my understanding, my impression is that there's nothing you can do because you'll get arrested.
Yeah, to the advice I gave this gentleman, I highly deter you intervening or
Okay.
engaging.
All you can do is video, and report it, it makes you feel helpless, but you're going to get detained or taken into custody.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can say something about this.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good idea.
I'm part of a statewide network that is working across the state with different communities. They are court accompaniment programs. One of the things that is happening is we have ICE officers coming to the courthouses. So there are specific things that we can do when it comes to educating yourself. ACLU is putting out really important materials for those of us who understand that there's something that we can do. So I'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is happening here in Norwalk is on October 16th at the Welcoming Center, we're doing a red folder presentation. So that's also an opportunity to, look for volunteer opportunities to help people collect their red folder information, to be a translator, to be a support person. So that's being organized at the Welcoming Center
Okay.
on October 16th.
And then
Thank you.
in the, sorry, I'm almost done, I apologize. In the event that something happens, am I able to ask, to your knowledge, successfully an ICE agent, like for their name or any information, any identifiable information that has helped in the past with any case?
I know the local law enforcement, it's in our directives. If you ask for their identity, they're mandated to give you their identity. I can't sit
Answer
here
for
tonight
that.
and tell you what the policies are of federal law enforcement officers when it comes to identifying themselves if asked by a citizen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so unfortunately, I have some Zoom ones to ask. I'm gonna let Gail go, then the Zoom ones, then you can come back because you've already asked a couple. I also have one. So I'm just wondering, Chief Walsh, if you can clarify within your police force how you are ensuring that all of your officers also understand the nuance of what's in their right and not locally. You clearly have a very good handle on it. You went out into the parking lot and spoke to ICE, but all of this is happening with the patrols and the community in different parts. So how are you ensuring equal understanding across your police force of the power they have as individuals when they're doing their job?
Well, the first would be training.
Mhm.
Training of all officers is very important in regards to every situation. Training is continual and ongoing through the Norfolk Police Department in regards to the Trust Act, its recent updates and all the updates since then. In regards to other messaging is important from departmental leadership, communication in regards to what is going on in the community. So there's always a line of communication among myself to other departmental administration to see what's going on, to get a temperature of what is going on in the community. And it's a continual dialogue of messaging and reinforcement.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Gail Melanson from Mid-Fairfield Community Care Center. And I'm just here, it's not a question. I just wanted to make sure that people knew that we were a resource. Thanks to the funding from the city of Norwalk, and we have private foundations that have made our services available to Norwalk students. So we are in the schools to support students. They don't have to necessarily come to our office if they're afraid to do that. So I just wanted to make people know we're there. People are scared, people are angry. You know, there's a lot of feelings, and we want to be there to support the children who may be facing a parent who was deported, or fear every day that, you know, this will happen to them or their parents. So our program is called the Latinx Integrated Care Program, and we are in the schools. So you could reach out to Mid-Fairfield. You can ask your schools. We're in both high schools, a lot of the middle schools, and some of the elementary schools. So I just wanted to let people know.
Thank you.
Mid-Fairfield Community Care Center. And the program specifically for this population is LINC, Latinx Integrated Care, LINC.
Thank you. So given that technically there is a rule of law and there are policies, but we also know the reality that ICE officers are not always following those. There is a question from Zoom that says, what trainings can organizations provide more broadly so that our immigrant community knows their rights?
I know that I know our group, and I'm sure a lot of other nonprofits offers. Well, I know B1C offers monthly Q&A sessions. A lot of organizations were offering Know Your Rights, but that's a lot of the rights have kind of gone by the wayside. So they're not that relevant because the government and ICE is kind of doing whatever they want. But there are lots of, there are Q&As just to that, again, B1C offers monthly. Individuals can sign up for them on our website. And so that in terms of trainings, and then if they want individual consultations, they can do that as well through
So
B1C.
the Q&As are with your legal team.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can go and ask any questions that you have, but that they're not specifically about.
I
your
think
rights.
so. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not involved in those, but I believe so. Are they, and they may be topical, Yvonne, or are they general?
So our latest Q&As have been general, but we are going to start doing them by topics now. So people know what kind of access they have. We also do presentations on the family preparedness plan, and we are working with the group on the state of doing the red folder training so that people can prepare the documents in case anything happens.
Okay. Thank you. And then another question from Zoom is families impacted by deportation threats by landlords or rent struggles. Where can they go?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So if a family is impacted by deportation threats by their landlords, and I think I'm not sure if this is the same or different, but also if they're having rent struggles, where can they go? And I think
Yeah, I would
May
defer to the city.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
My name is Nancy Coughlin. I'm the CEO of Person to Person, and we can help.
Sorry, you can help specifically with this?
Person to, yes. So
challenges?
Person to Person has a variety of programs, and rent assistance is one of them. Undocumented, documented, anybody struggling. We serve Stamford, Norwalk, and the surrounding communities. P2Phelps.org is the website. 655-0048 is the phone number, but people can Google us.
Thank you. And the mayor also has.
Also, don't walk away. This is Lamont Daniels. He is my chief of community services. There's a wealth of information and assistance through his office. We have the community services hub. They're here to help. If you have a pen and want to write this down, it's 203-854-7999. And that includes the Fair Rent Office. And Lamont, if you just want to add something, because this guy has all the resources that you might need.
Thank you, Mayor. One thing I would add is that our team are trilingual, so we speak all languages. And if we don't know your home of origin language, we have the services to speak to you in that way so you can be respected with dignity. Thanks, Mayor.
Great. I have a very tough job and there's someone behind you who has not asked a question. So can they go first and then you can go if we have time?
You mentioned something that bystanders could do or document the experience, sorry, the ICE arrest or record in some way. So I guess it's a two-parter. One part, how would these documentations or recordings be used? Presumably in like an ICE hearing afterwards. And the second part of the question is, let's say I'm recording a stranger getting arrested. How would I get this recording to like the right people where it would actually be used effectively?
I would say it would be the federal authorities.
Okay.
The local police departments have no jurisdiction or responsibility to hold them accountable. It would have to be to a local state's attorney, federal state's attorney, or the local supervisor at a federal law enforcement office, such as the FBI, HSI, or one of those agencies.
I just send them like this YouTube link and be like, find this guy or that. I just throw it out there for them. They'll figure it out somehow.
We can't hear you.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait, speak closer to.
I guess the suggestion is just send it to an office, but is there any sort of identification that we could maybe follow up on? Like if you're saying give it to this office, am I just providing it as like a YouTube link? Then they'll figure out where it is from there.
With any reporting, it would probably start with a phone call.
Okay.
To see where you can go, or looking it up online. Probably all your resources available are online to any federal law enforcement agency, not only federally, but there's local field offices.
Gotcha.
You can also look at the ACLU resources in case there's suggestions there. Claudia.
Hi, thank you. My name is Claudia Connor. I'm just wanted to actually add one other resource. I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you. But to the folks that asked about how to document safely what you see, the Stanford Norwalk United with Immigrants had launched last month, in addition to the accompanying training that Catalina mentioned, an observers training that's specifically dedicated to training people on how to document ICE presence in the cities. I don't have an address or an email address for them, but you could email David Vita at the Unitarian Church in Westport. It's david@uwestport.org and get on the mailing list. And they send out a lot of trainings and a table outside as well.
They also have a table outside with information.
Yes.
So
Okay, last question.
So some of the questions stood out to me that the response was sort of, we know that ICE might not be following the law, but there's not much we can do. What could we in this room do to embolden the leadership team to feel like there is something we can do to uphold the law when we know ICE is violating it?
What can we do to embolden ourselves so that ICE follows the law?
Well, you could embolden leadership, but in today's, there's a structure to everything. And that structure is documented law. Once local law enforcement deviates from law, we're no better than anybody else. So that is a difficult question. To embolden is to make sure that your local authorities are complying with the law and doing if they can to assure a warm and assuring city to address all their services and needs. But to say embolden for us for intervention or something like that, it's a strong statement, but also it has to be stated with caution from my office, is due to the fact that we are restricted. And I have to assure that my office and all my officers obey the law.
I would just say that I think that is it is a tough question, but one that we're doing what we can on the state level. That's why we passed another version, an enhanced version of the Trust Act, and there's conversations about whether or not the governor will support more. That was on the table earlier in the session. That's why we sent a letter to the head of the Chief Justice on what happens actually inside the courtrooms. That's why we sent a letter to our federal delegation about the no masks for ICE letter. I mean, there's things that some of us can do. We can pass laws that impact the state, but we can't interfere ourselves with the federal government. In way, we want to pass laws that will stand court cases and the test of time and not put our citizens in harm's way. But we also want to make sure that we are speaking up ourselves and putting ourselves on the record as what we think is right and fair and just. But a lot of, these letters we're doing these things because we know that people like you all who are here tonight have our back, and that you are supporting us as well as we're supporting you. And so all that's important. However, as the chief said, we don't want to don't want to have people where they feel like they can do what they would like, and then all of a sudden they get arrested themselves. I don't want you to be a felon because you interfered with a federal law enforcement. I don't want you to get arrested because you say a certain agency is at a certain hotel, because maybe in the past that wouldn't have been something that would have been criminalized, but maybe today it might be, based on a certain narrow interpretation of the law. So we urge people to use their power collectively, individually and collectively, to again, speak up and speak out, to register your dissatisfaction with our government. Remember, the government, we shouldn't be afraid of our government should be afraid of the people. And if you look at just from a political perspective, if you look at where polling was in January on immigration and where polling is today on immigration, is totally flipped. And that's because people are seeing what's happening and they're not buying what's being sold. So that's all good. But we all have to operate within the rule of law. I will say that maybe our federal government is not abiding by the rule of law, and their things there are not as we would like it to be. But I can tell you, in the state of Connecticut, the legislative branch and the executive branch and the judicial branch are working as it always has been operating, and we will continue to operate that way because that's our values. But we need people to help us by being out there, being loud, and registering your dissatisfaction, but doing it in a way that is in a lawful way, not in a way that will put you all in harm's way.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, as I mentioned before, these are unprecedented times. We've not experienced anything like this. In the past, if another law enforcement agency came into the city, they would give the courtesy of letting our police department know they're here, why they're here, and ask for any assistance. ICE does not let anybody know that they're coming into their town. Also, you talk about emboldened. We encourage people, you have no right to resist an arrest, whether it's illegal or not. And we don't want people to get themselves even further jammed up by interfering with a law enforcement activity or a federal law enforcement activity, because that can just exacerbate the situation and have people get charged where maybe there was no charge to begin with. So just as we've talked about the power of the voice, the power of the people, eventually the power of the people will prevail. And there can be no other answer. And you have a power of vote. You have a power of your voice. You have the right to protest. You have the right to speak out. And that's what we encourage people to do, because that's the only way that we're going to be heard loud and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as we approach the end of our meeting, I want to express my personal gratitude to all of you who came today and expended your energy to ask questions on behalf of those that do not feel safe in our community right now and don't have the emotional energy to put themselves at risk by coming here today. So I appreciate all of your efforts to ask questions and represent your neighbors, even when this doesn't directly impact you. This has intense ripple effects on everyone in our community. I like to thank, I'm going to go slowly because I don't want to forget anyone like I probably did at the beginning, but I'd like to thank everyone for coming, our panelists, and remind you that there's amazing organizations tabling outside that have resources for the community and ways that you can directly help. Person to Person, Norwalk Health, Human Services Council, Community Resource Hub, Waterford Upstart, and special shout out to Building One Community for helping us plan this event. Sanford Norwalk United with Immigrants for really organizing folks in our community recently through the Observer program, also mutual aid and stepping up to support families that are impacted by the recent ICE operations. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure those organizations will be at their tables at the end so you can connect with them and learn different ways to be able to help, including the red tape the red folder training. But thank you to our panelists. We appreciate your help.
You know, if the three people here want to come up front, we can try to answer the question as everybody's leaving. You have a question you'd like to ask and come on up front.